be sexually flipping gratified from our phones with pornography. You know, we just conditioned so we don't even have to put the work in a lot of the times. We don't even have to go the distance. We can just have what we want at the push of a button. I remember a mentor of mine saying to me years ago, he says, Gav, this masculine journey is going to take you about 80 or 90 years to work out, son. But the good thing is it continually gets better, okay? You become, you know, the pennies drop on certain things, so it's worth it. You don't have to wait 80 years. It just keeps getting better and better, and that has been my, you know, my story, you know. But you've got to go the distance, you know. I can't help but think so many young blokes these days, you know. I mean, even over the last, you know, couple of decades, see how where nowadays instant coffee's not quick enough, you know. These days we don't even make our coffee; we want it served to us. We haven't got time to make it, you know. So that's just an example, but it's so true from looking back over years, like apprenticeships, okay? Whereas people would, you know, say 4 decades ago, where it would be where you would do a 4 to 5 year apprenticeship, and then when you come out of that, then you would really start to learn the trade or the industry. Whereas these days, goodness me, you know, people come out of a 6-week course or a 12-week course and want to start making 100K, you know, and can't understand why. So then to talk about longevity when you've got a mindset like that is a challenge, okay? It's a discipline. And, you know, one of the best things that I've seen and really seen the benefits of taking away a timeline, taking away a finish point, you know, and changing that finish point whereas until we get the result we want, okay? And when you take that away, I've seen, particularly when we you know put over 1,000 blokes through our boxing program where we do a 3-round fight, and at the end of it, 3 rounds, man, they were spent, they were gone. But also what I observed was a lot of blokes pull up just short of the finish line. They do just enough to look good. They do just enough to satisfy. They won't, you know, they end up just operating where most people, on average, you know, they do enough. They do enough so they don't look bad, but they don't do enough to really tap into really what's in them, okay? So when I changed that up and I actually started, it's kind of a funny story at the time. It wasn't funny, like it was hilarious at the time, except for the blokes that were doing it. Whereas I got a mate come along he's a professional gambler, he's a bookie. And so when I started running these not the Fight Like a Pro, the big events, the men only nights in the basement of this nightclub, and just a fight club, blokes around, man, it was just hardcore. It was awesome. And what I brought my mate in who was a bookie. So let's start backing these blokes. So so we can start bet on the fights, okay? And it added atmosphere. I'm telling you, it was amazing. But he said to me, "What are we going to do if there's a draw?" So I said, "Well, there's going to be no draws." So what we would do 3 rounds, we go to the scorecards, it's a draw. So then we do another round. And of course, blokes were just spent at 3 rounds. All of a sudden, they do another round. And then sometimes what we'd do is, it would be a draw then as well. So we'd have to do other things, okay? Get the crowd involved and so forth. And even one time we even thought, well, I didn't, because I'm making this up on the spot, okay? Round 5, push-up competition, these blokes are spent. They have just given every single thing they've got, and then it's another challenge. But this is what I found. And then what I started to do was, jeepers, all right. So then what I started to do was, I started doing 2 rounds, and then the last round, the 3rd round, we'd just go until there was a winner. Until they couldn't, there was nothing else in the tank. But, and then sometimes what I found was blokes would say the fight was, normally go say 6 minutes, where we do 4 minutes and we go until, where blokes were going 6 minutes, the last round was going 6 minutes. We're even up to 10 minutes long, the last round. But what I found, and a couple of those I said, I just stopped it because, man, there's just two winners. These blokes are gone. They've given everything. There are no losers there. But what I noticed was when I took away the finish line, their best actually come out when they were just going until. So you imagine, even the nights that I had at my, on my place where we just had fires around the outside of the ring, it's dark, 150 blokes around the outside that last round saying, until you get the victory, until. And then just the atmosphere, what it did, blokes actually went to another level. They went further than they ever thought possible. They did more. Their best actually come out when they went past what they'd ever done. When the longevity kicked in, okay, and they were in the right state, the right atmosphere, the validation, the initiation was happening from going the distance, from taking away the finish line. Because a lot of blokes I've seen, and you could be one of them, I'll have a fair income go, but if it doesn't work, I'm out. I'm going to do something different. I'll have a fair income go until, but when you're giving, we go back and we look at flipping Honda, okay, all the trials, all the things that he thought went wrong, all the things that he thought weren't working in his favour, we're actually developing a better engine. We're actually developing a different marker. We're actually developing a stronger marriage with his wife. Imagine going to your wife saying, listen, love, I need you to trust me, And I've got to tell you, I've actually done that. I've actually gone to my wife and said when I wanted to make a comeback and realising there was more in me, okay? I'd been the Australian champion. I'd done everything I wanted to do at that point in time. But then as I went along, I realised there was still more in there because my goal, my mission was to be the best in the country. Once I got that, the fire went out, and maybe you're thinking too small like I was. And then I remember training blokes and thinking, I think I'm going better than them, and I'm not even getting ready to fight, And I remember talking to my wife, I remember thinking about, I think there's still something in there. I still think. I thought, because I'd never thought maybe I could be a world champ. I never thought about it. I never thought. I don't even know why. So I thought, listen, I'm going to come back. And I remember delivering that to my wife. I remember saying, love, I got an itch, I got a scratch. I said, look on her face. Because we've been together since we were teenagers. She's been through everything. Goodness me, she's still in everything. I never want to do nothing without her yet. So I remember coming back, and I wasn't the world champ. But you know what? I ended up being ranked 12th in the world. Imagine if there was still more in me. There was still more in me, So you talk about Honda, you talk about McDonald's, you talk about innovating, changing, transforming, adapting, pivoting, whatever you want to call it, there's more in you to come out. And I'm telling you, as you go the distance, as longevity kicks in, that's when you see the real fruit, the real changes happening. It's when you get to look back and think, wow, I'm so grateful for those things not working out. I'm so grateful. I mean, the truth is, okay, this has been a thought process of mine. If I had become the world champion, I don't think I'd be doing this today. I don't think, right, that it would have developed my character in the way that it did by not winning the world title. I don't know, what would have happened if I hate to think, because at certain times in my life, I have been humbled. On certain times in your life, I know you've been humbled. You've been you've had to far out, you've had to go all in on things and they haven't worked, and it's turned things into a strength. I know that. So imagine this, right? You think about, I'm thinking about, truth is, when I was a young bloke, I didn't think I'd make 30. I seriously didn't think. I never looked long term. But as I've gone through these different rite of passages, as I've become a man alive and having a better vision, being, what I would say, not at the top of the mountain, there's plenty to go, but being up near the top and having a better vision of my future rather than being down and out and just all I see is hard times, all I see is rubbish. Being at the top, I can see a better vision. And I know as you're going through these weeks, okay, as you're going through these months, you're getting a better vision. You start to create oaths. When we talked about oaths, now there's another opportunity to create some oaths around longevity. We go until we get the result. We go until it works out. We go until the breakthrough happens. Particularly, one of the oaths, around my family, around my marriage. It's my marriage. We're married until flipping death. It brings safety, it brings security, when I talk like that, talk about longevity, when I talked about oaths around living a sober life, living a life on mission, oaths around that. They're all around longevity, going the distance, oaths around being fit and healthy, training, training myself mentally, training myself physically, helping others. There's oaths around that. Everything that I'm talking about going the distance. We go until. If we operate on how we feel, it will change all the time. But we've got that clear vision of the future in the right state of mind, going the distance. It's a different life. It's a different future. For me, my faith, I'm a Christian. My faith, it's about going the distance. That strength that raised Christ from the dead is the same strength that lives in me. It will get me to go the distance. It will change my future. It's longevity. One of my oaths, there's a scripture that says, "As for me and my house, we serve the Lord." We're going until. And I want to say, this longevity thing. You've got to. I've learnt to be smart. That's why I've incorporated some oaths about being a lifelong learner, okay? Because some people, or some men, say, "I've always done this. This is the way it's always done." Well, that's all right if it's working, okay? So then it's about, we talk about innovation, adapting things so we can make them better. So when I talk about longevity, like some blokes have just done the same old thing and expecting a different result. They call that insanity. So, I know blokes that have said, I could never change. Well, we can change. Of course, we're about going the distance and making things better and creating something for our children, our children's children's children. We have to keep evolving. We have to keep changing. The way I've done things, the way we've seen things with the pandemic, the way where men's income has been flipped on its head, we've had to change, okay? But when you've got that dream, that mission, how we do it alters. How we do it, how we make it happen, will change. So you've got to be smart. You've got to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. We've got to think bigger. We've got to think different. But when it comes down to longevity, how I started back in 2009, same vision, change the world one man at a time. Okay, that my dream is that every male would know there is a rite of passage to be taken. That every man would come alive. Every man would live a life on mission. That's my dream. How I do it today is different to the way I'm doing it then. Okay, evolving, changing, improving, making it better. That will cause me to go the distance. If there are people out there today that are still copying the way that I was doing it back in '09, even the way I was doing it back in 2013, even the way I was doing it in 2017, that people are copying it and think, oh yeah, they're a decade behind. Create rather than compete. So when we talk about longevity, that's an oath. I'm always innovating. I say that's what you have to do, okay? So for you to go the distance, it must be a real clear vision of what station are you tuning into, what frequency are you tuning into. So that will enable you to go the distance.